Welcome into Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. Casey Phillips here with Cam Brate. It is our final one of these of the year. It's crazy to realize we've made it this far, and we have a really fun game to get to talk about on this last show. We don't do these going into the playoffs, and so we thought, what a perfect time for you, my amazing co-host of the year, to get to help us with a nice wrap-up show. NFC South champs, the only NFC team to make the playoffs the last 5 years. The fourth year in a row to be NFC South champs, playoff bound. It's just so cool to think about what this means to this organization, this team. What's your reaction to hearing some of those numbers, especially about the sustained success these last few years?
Yeah, it's incredible. And really like kind of two separate eras, right? Like the Tom Brady-led Bucs to the Baker Mayfield-led Bucs, and just didn't skip a beat. And that really wasn't the expectation. So it's a huge testament to the coaches, the front office for bringing all the right guys in, and obviously the players for performing. And it's pretty awesome. You know, Tampa Bay is kind of the leading team in the NFC South. That really wasn't the case when I first got here. So to consistently be the NFC South champ like that is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and now tied with the Saints for the total number of times won the division, which now means next year, we got to get it again because we got to beat the Saints at the total number. That's going to be so big. Tell me what you think the mentality of the team was going into the game. What is this feeling they must have of knowing, like, win and you're in? Like, simple as can be. Now, turns out, even if they lost, they would have been in, but that's not as fun for anybody. No. Knowing that of one game, and it felt so poetic of, like, when people say the NFL is scripted, it's like, it's against your rival. It's one game and you're in, and everything with Mike at stake at this, just the emotions going into a game like that.
Yeah, it kind of played out how I anticipated. I mean, the Bucs had everything to lose, and the Saints had nothing to lose. And so, you don't really want to think about it like that way, but it seemed like we came out a little bit tight at the beginning of the game. Saints kind of controlled the ball the whole first half, but just to make the adjustments we did, and, the guys who ended up making the huge plays for us, not just, Mike throughout the game, but a guy like Jalen, one of the rookies, stepping up and making some huge plays in the second half. It was just an awesome win. Hopefully, can kind of build off the momentum of the second half, forget about the first half a little bit going into next week.
Yeah, and tell us how challenging that is from an offensive perspective when you have all these emotions going into this game. You do all the warm-ups, you do all your things, you get all hyped, and then you end up sitting on the bench a lot for a long time. It felt like you see guys almost having to re-warm up on the sideline. How challenging is that? Super
challenging. I was never a huge juice guy. I wanted to conserve all of my juice possible, but such a big game for the Bucs, everything on the line. Everyone's super excited to go out and make plays, and then if you're on the Bucs offense, you had two possessions the first hour, 15 minutes of real time, and that's really hard. And I think they just needed to get into halftime, kind of readjust. I think we were down 10 at half, right? 6-16, I think was the score. Knowing that we get the ball coming out in the second half, it looked like a totally different team. Yeah.
And would you have wanted to know what was going on in the Falcons game?
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You have to know. You have to know what's going on.
How does that work in a game? Like, who is knowing? What are the policies about that?
Well, it's like impossible not to, right? Like, I'm sure that they were showing the score on the Jumbotron, right?
That's occasionally.
I think a couple teams, like, throughout the past few years have, like, purposely not shown the score. But I would hate that so much. I need to know what's going on. And it was a really good game. The Falcons and Panthers game was very fun to watch that one as well. But yeah, I mean, we didn't know they were going to lose until we had already won. So that was there was definitely probably some scoreboard watching on the sideline.
And now, most importantly, maybe as much as the whole playoffs thing was a little important, Mike Evans,
so awesome,
1,000 yards. Tell me what it was like for you to watch, and especially to make it where it looks like it's not going to happen, to be 5 yards short. What were your thoughts about that going in and watching it?
Yeah, me and my wife were watching it at home, and we were so bummed. Like, we were trying to think about maybe if it goes to overtime, maybe we let him score here, get a 2-point conversion, win the game in overtime, get Mike over 1,000. But yeah, it wasn't really looking good for Mike there. After Bucky scored, made it an 8-point game, and they kind of panned to Liam and Todd on the sideline talking after the Saints failed on 4th down, turned the ball over. And I was like, no way are they about to throw the ball here, up 8, game's already over. But they had to for Mike. I mean, it's such an awesome accomplishment for Mike. Anytime you're mentioned with Jerry Rice, who's the greatest receiver of all time, is pretty incredible. And for Mike to do that the first 11 years of his career just shows his talent level, his work ethic, but just how durable he is too, which is really hard to do. And this year was especially challenging, obviously, with the injury. And you could just tell how much it meant to the team. You could tell how much it meant to Mike. That was the most emotion I've seen from Mike. Ever. So I'm just super happy for him.
Yeah, I feel like that's when it got dusty in there, is when like Mike is always the guy that just is like team first. I'm the least selfish guy in the world. I don't even want people to know when I do nice things, and to see the passion both on the field in the moment it happened and then the video of him in the locker room afterward. It's like, this mattered to him.
And they kept on panning the camera to him in the 4th quarter when it didn't look like he was going to get it. And it looked like he was like coming to terms with it. And he was okay.
Yeah.
Which I think makes it
even better,
even more special that they were able to do it for him.
We're talking to Cam Brate. What do you think those discussions are like on offense when like this season is at stake here too, of making the playoffs? It's not like this is a garbage game where you can just be like, throw the ball to Mike 80 times. The discussions in that moment, and even at the end, I mean, there is a little risk involved in not just kneeling down. Do you remember, like, what you think those conversations were like, but do you remember having to do things like this at any point, trying to get Mike some of these or situations like that for people that had like incentives?
Yeah, there was one that stands out. We had to get Antonio a few catches when we were up really big in a game against the Falcons.
But see, and that's handy. When you're up that big,
we were up huge.
So
so
much
the
easier.
Game was over. The Falcons were very confused. So like we were explaining to them what was going on while it was happening. They're like, why are you guys throwing the ball? And we're like, dude, we got to get him like 3 more catches.
I love the discussion.
Yeah, we had to let him know because it was like what.
Otherwise, it's kind of disrespectful.
Totally.
Yeah.
But I feel like in that particular situation yesterday, with it being division title on the line, playoff berth at stake, to do that, like you would only do that for a certain type of guy, right?
Yep.
And Mike just means so much to the team, to the organization, to the city. You had to do it for him. And it was a little risky, but I mean, relatively safe play call. As long as Mike doesn't fumble it, he's gonna
pretty good
get
about
to
not doing
1,000
that.
Exactly. So, but yeah, you don't do that for everyone.
I was just like, please, no one hold. Please, no one.
Oh, that would have been
like,
so depressing. So depressing.
And what was it like for you watching? Even I felt like here Bucky scores this touchdown that like
huge touchdown.
Yeah,
but like you were still sad. Like I was like,
this is the only way in the history of football that we're like sad someone scored a touchdown to like win you the division, put you in the playoffs. I felt so bad for Bucky that it almost felt
totally.
like
And there was guys coming up to him on the sideline. I'm sure being
like, hey man,
hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like he had to score there.
That cracked me up. So, all right. So moving on to some of the other stuff that happened in the game, because man, there were many things. Tell me your thoughts on Baker's game in particular, of just the way he played, and especially 68 yards rushing.
Yeah, Baker was awesome. Obviously, take away the interception, it was truly like a flawless game. He kind of willed the team in the second half. Like they kind of took Mike away. They were getting a little bit of pressure on Baker, but every single third down, he found a way to get the first down, whether it was scrambling and making a throw downfield, picking up the first down with those legs. Like Baker put the team on his back in the second half. And the 4th and 8 throw to Jalen, right through the corner, where Jalen picked up the penalty, which was an absolutely ridiculous penalty, by the way. Followed up.
I don't know if you're one of the people that can get fined. I don't think so, since you don't really work for the team. We'll allow it.
Absurd. But
you get to speak for all of us.
Yeah, huge play, right? Like the ball was around the 45-yard line. We don't get that first down, 4th down. They need 15 yards to kick a field goal, go up 2 possessions. Just a perfect pass by Baker, and to follow that up 2 plays later, the touchdown, scrambling around, like incredible throw. Yeah, Baker was like, he was the difference yesterday.
Yeah, and it's great you brought up all those plays by Jalen too. I mean, he ends up with 5 catches, 74 yards, and a touchdown. This was his 7th touchdown in 5 games, which is tied with Mike Evans and Jimmy Giles for the most in a 5-game span in team history. Not even just by like a rookie, just in team history. His 5 straight games with a receiving touchdown is the second longest streak by a rookie in NFL history, behind just Randy Moss. Those are some wild stats. Tell me just what you've seen about his emergence, and not just, again, as a rookie, but as a receiver in general, and the mental side of that, and thinking about, like you brought up that penalty. I think about the fact that could have taken a lot of people out of it, that you feel like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? And like, you watch Todd over there talking to him on the sideline, and for him to come back immediately and score that big touchdown, what this says about what Jalen is made of at this point in the season.
Yeah, just watching his evolution throughout the year, you can tell just how much more confidence he has in himself. It's going to sound kind of stupid, but like as a receiver, you can kind of tell watching film a guy who truly wants the ball every single play. And every single route he's running to win, to get open. And Baker has developed more and more confidence in him. He knows that, all right, they're bracketing Mike here. They have a safety over the top. Mike's not going to be the guy. Immediately, he can trust that Jalen's going to get open, and he also is going to do something with the ball after he catches it. So just watching how much he's grown, and the team has needed it so much without Chris, he's just done a great job. And going forward, like continuing to watch him grow, I think he's going to do some special things. Yeah,
I completely agree. And then Bucky Irving now has the 2nd most yards from scrimmage and 2nd most rushing touchdowns by a rookie running back in team history. Just tell us about what you've noticed about him, of his consistency and emergence as well. And I mean, these 2 rookies have just become such a huge part of this offense and what we've been able to do. So the same way you kind of talked about Jalen, of what you feel like Bucky's, what he contributed this year, but his future with this organization and what he could look like.
Yeah, Bucky's been awesome all year. Just really unique ability to make guys miss. I think he's gotten better at running between the tackles throughout the year as well. Not a big guy at all, but always seems to find the hole and also find a way to fall forward and gain an extra yard or 2. But for a rookie, I've just been so impressed with his ability in the pass game as well. It's something that not a lot of rookie running backs are capable of doing, but he's just very natural with it. And, that gives Liam so much flexibility. I know Rashad didn't have a ton of work yesterday, but having 2 guys that can not only run the ball between the tackles but also catch the ball, it just puts so much pressure on the defense.
Yeah, and I saw Bucky pick up a really nice blitz as well. And I feel like that's going to be, as we always talk about with rookie running backs, that's the big factor in how much they can be on the field, crunch situations, all that kind of stuff. To see him grow in that area as well, I'm sure is going to make a big difference as well.
And I know Rashad didn't. I don't think Rashad had a touch yesterday. Rashad played on 3rd downs, had 3 or 4 huge blitz pickups on those plays.
So and even in the stat box, it doesn't show, but 100%, huge contribution.
Even in the 4th quarter. But I think having a guy like Rashad for Bucky to see how to do it, kind of the right mindset to have, has been huge for him. Because like you said, for a rookie running back to come in, that's by far the hardest part.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here on Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. Casey Phillips here with Cam Brate. We'll be back after this. This is Buccaneers Radio. Welcome back into Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. Casey Phillips here alongside Cam Brate, talking about that incredible win over the Saints. So it's also, we just were talking about Bucky Irving before the break, but overall, I mean, the team has a new single-season franchise record in rushing yards. That's a wild thing to think about, where we've been in that stat category in recent years. Explain how impressive it is to have that dramatic of a turnaround in any sort of offensive category, of how hard it is in this league. I mean, it feels like typically y'all are fighting for inches, few yards here and there to move up a little bit in a category. To go from essentially worst to first in so many of these rushing categories is unbelievable.
Right. It really is. And it makes such a big difference. It's not just the run game, right? It's the run game sets up the play action pass. The run game allows your offense to control the clock, keep the defense off the field. I think a lot of it has been schematic. I think Liam's done an incredible job really switching up the looks on the runs, not just relying on, man or gap blocking, but having so many variations with the motions. You kind of see across the league, a lot of the good teams have had success with that. Having receivers and tight ends, a bunch of pre-snap movement. And I think that wrinkle that he kind of introduced in the offense has made us a lot more dynamic and a lot more difficult to defend. And it just has wide-reaching implications having a good run game.
Yeah, and you kind of saw that in the game where, I think Bucky only had 5 carries the first half, and it's sort of a chicken or egg thing of where we just weren't on the field very often, but then also I think we passed maybe 16 times versus, 5 runs, things like that. And then you saw in the second half, getting back to that game plan and the way it opened everything up, it felt like we saw that this has now become the Bucs' identity. And when they get away from it, that's where you saw the slow start.
100%. And, yesterday was a little bit of a struggle to run the football. I think we ended up with like 180 yards rushing, but Baker had 70. Bucky had one really long run, and obviously the touchdown counted as a run as well at the end of the game. But even if you're not having success running the football, it's just kind of chips away at the defense, wears them out. You need to be able to continue to run the ball, even if it's not getting amazing results in the first half, because in the second half we did spring a couple big runs, and it just kind of running the football just wears on the defense. So, yeah.
And then I felt like you obviously are going to want to shout out your tight end room here, because you also weren't here last week, and so we didn't get a chance to talk about Payne Durham's first touchdown last week. Gets another one this week. Didn't throw it in the stands this week. Great. Growth on all fronts for learning. Mr. Payne Durham. Tell me
this football was less important. I mean, no one cares about your second touchdown.
No one keeps their second.
Yeah.
Tell me what you've noticed about him, both touchdowns and just now that in these games where Cade's been out, the way he stepped in that area.
Yeah. Payne has done a great job stepping up. I think Devin Culp as well, a guy I was really unfamiliar with. I'd talked to Cade about him before. It looked like this past week they tried putting him in a little bit more in the passing situations, because a guy like Cade's pretty hard to replace. Like we talked about before, like Cade does everything well, and so it's really hard to find like a 1-for-1 replacement for Cade. But they've kind of used the whole group. Payne offers obviously some things in the red zone with his size. He does a good job in the run game, but then having a guy like Devin to come in on those passing situations, he made a couple of really huge catches on third down yesterday. And obviously shout out my guy, Ko. He's out there working. Our secret weapon for the playoffs, we just didn't want to show.
That's what it is. Yeah. That's why we haven't thrown him the ball yet.
Yeah, we're
he's going to be our target number 1 in playoffs, I imagine.
It was amazing last year, the first game of the season in 2023. I think Ko had 3 targets on the first drive.
Yep.
And then I think he had 1 the rest of the season.
Yep.
But it's all setting up for this playoff run.
That's why they did the 3 to start the year last year, just to make teams wonder when it was going to happen again.
Yep. I think we're due.
Setting it up. I was thinking about when, Payne threw the football in the stands. Were you big in keeping things? Did you throw footballs away you wish you hadn't?
No, I'm pretty sure you get fined for throwing it in the stands.
Yep. And Mike Evans is like, full send, don't care.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? That makes no sense to me. But it does look cool. It looks cool.
That's what it is. I think in the moment, no one remembers that in the moment. But this is such you and your little Harvard economics over here of it costs money. Why would I celebrate that?
Dude, one time I got fined. And the fines aren't a little bit.
Yeah, it's not $5. Yeah.
No, it's not, because my knees were showing above my socks.
Wow. Scandalous, yes. First of all.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Anyway.
How much did you get fined for that?
$5,000.
Jeez.
On appeal.
$2,500 per knee.
I argued my case, got it down to $4,000.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Would that have been Derek Brooks that was overseeing that then?
No, it was.
Because I know he's the arbiter for a lot of that stuff now.
I think it was the O-lineman from the Eagles, Runyon.
Oh, yeah, John Runyon. That's pretty funny.
Anyway, but yeah.
So you were not throwing it away. You were not risking getting fined.
No.
Were you a person that kept a fair amount of things in your career, or no?
No, I enjoyed the jersey swap. I have a bunch of jerseys probably displayed in the house. I had my first touchdown and I had my last touchdown.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I like that. I remember when we did the story when you and Adam Humphries and Ryan Griffin were all living together in an apartment, and we went and did a story on just this bro apartment. And there was a little shelf that had, and I think at the time all it was is one of you had a community award or
Yeah, we won the bowling championship one year too, the tight end group. So And as the high bowler of that day, I got to bring home the trophy.
So that's your most valued possession, I'm imagining.
I don't have it anymore. Oh. It somehow got lost in a move. But
terrible.
Yeah, no, that was a pretty cool trophy display.
Yeah. What did you do with your Super Bowl ring?
Super Bowl ring, it's just at the house.
Just chilling.
Yeah, it was cool. People were interested in it, pretty immediately after, but it's collected some dust. It really hasn't.
No one's as excited anymore.
No one's really as excited anymore. I'm kind of washed up now. It's okay. Oh. It was a good run.
No one cares about Cam Brate anymore.
It's all right. I'm cool with that.
This is why you came on the show this year, to reinvigorate.
Trying to stay a little relevant.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Nice scene. So I know also now we talked a lot about the offense for good reasons in the game, but wanted to get a little bit into the defense. I mean, man, holding them to just 3 points in the second half, which includes like after an interception, after a botched punt, like situations that definitely did not set the defense up for success right there. And the last 4 games before this one, the defense has given up 6 points total in the second half. So now 5 games in a row, you're up to 9 points is all in second halves. In several 3-and-outs in these second halves, it's just wild. What have you seen as what has shifted for the defense at halftime, and how hard are these adjustments to make to have such a drastic shift?
Yeah, they got to find a way to do it in the first half, coming to the playoffs. But
you sound like Coach Bowles.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean that is coaching, right? Like you kind of figure out what's working. Halftime offers you the opportunity to kind of like regroup, really communicate to the guys exactly how you're going to attack them in the second half. It seemed like yesterday and really the past few games, first half we seemed a little bit more conservative kind of with our defensive play calling. Also, it's kind of hard sometimes. Offenses really scheme up the first 15 plays, and it seems like people kind of had a good idea to getting the ball out really fast against the Bucs. But they really tightened things up yesterday. They started blitzing a little bit more. Vita was truly unblockable the entire game. And when he's healthy, motivated, and playing well, like it's a totally different defense. And really I would say the back half of the season, you've really seen that and the impact it's had on the defense. We're
talking to Cam Brate. How challenging is it to make any kind of major adjustments at halftime? Like I'm thinking about for you guys on offense.
Really hard on offense.
Do you think it's easier on defense?
I do think it's easier on defense.
Yeah. Not like you're biased though.
It's just like the calls are like relatively a little bit simpler. Defensive line, it's kind of hard to like implement whether you're trying to do like a different kind of game or stunt on the defensive line. Those really are like, it's funny watching the defense walk through those. It's very orchestrated. So like that would be hard to do. Offense, you can really pretty much only run what you have on the call sheet. It's like, cause that's the OC relays the call into the quarterback who looks at his call sheet, who calls the play for the offense. So those are kind of hard to really make like a dramatic change in an offensive game plan. Defensively, I mean, it's relatively simple. There's only so many coverages.
See ball, get ball.
Right. There's only so many coverages you can run. Like there's only so many different guys that can blitz in combination with each other. So it is a little bit easier on defense to put those in.
This is also one of my favorite things of always asking offensive and defensive guys of which side of the ball is harder versus easier. And I always love how whichever side you're on, that's the harder side to do.
No, I will say, I think defense is harder, no doubt, because you have to hustle every play.
No loafing allowed.
Like I said before, I'm trying to conserve my energy, and so you look at it like I could maybe go get a block downfield, but
that's
defense
so far away.
Right, they like put up loafs on the board the next day. If guys are caught loafing on a play, like I would probably pick up some of those.
You would have earned a few of those.
Yeah.
So what I was thinking about the fact that here Jordan Whitehead, ends up being out so last minute and in a very unforeseen way, very sad way of, finding out that he got hurt in a car wreck. And I just want to hear from you what that would be like as a player on and off the field of where, your teammate from like the X's and O's standpoint of on Saturday, after you've done all the game planning, all the preparation now goes down. And so like just the changing up of what that's going to look like, but then also just the personal side of like, oh man, like as your teammate went through this thing before the biggest game of the year so far, what that's like for everybody to kind of deal with.
It's definitely challenging, especially the day before, trying to figure out exactly how you're going to adjust to that, both coaching and as a player. Because, Coach Bowles does a really good job utilizing guys' unique talents. So figuring out ways to kind of like piece together to make the same impact that Jordan would have, I'm sure presented a challenge for the coaches. Then as a player, obviously, you're thinking about Jordan. You're hoping he's doing well. But like you got to go out there and kind of there's got to be no fall off in the level of performance. So, I think the culture within the organization probably helps that. Coach Bowles does a really good job throughout the week making sure guys know what they're doing. Even the backups, we always talk about, like, you never know when you're going to be that next man up. So I don't think there was like a huge fall off in play yesterday. I think the guys did a really good job adjusting to that. Yeah.
I know Yaya, he not only had the sack, but he also had a new career high in tackles for loss with 4. He is the first Buccaneer with 4 or more tackles for loss in a game since 2020. What have you seen from how he's been able to get in the backfield so often, and also just picturing if you had to be one of the people trying to help against him?
Yeah, just super disruptive. And I think when he came in, he was pretty raw, but like had all the tools. And I think throughout the year, going back to last year, you kind of just see him continually get better, more consistent with his play. And another guy who's just got a really bright future because his combination of like size, length, speed it puts a huge onus on trying to figure out ways to slow him down. Yeah.
And then another outside linebacker, we got Shaq Barrett back. We also, you weren't here last week. We had to talk about this again with you here of just how cool to see him be back in a Bucs uniform, back in the building, and what he could mean. What is that like even for the locker room to have a guy like him back?
Yeah, I mean, his veteran presence, Super Bowl winning pedigree, he's really been there before. Guys can utilize him as a tool. The way he kind of understands the game, the way he can manipulate his body. And like Shaq, probably not the most gifted athlete in the world, but just a technician. And I think his ability to kind of help coach up some of these younger guys and scouting up who they're going to be going against is going to be really big. But also as he eases back into football shape, like Shaq was pretty much unblockable when he was at his peak. So if we can even get a little bit of that going forward, like that'll be huge for our defense.
All right, we're going to take another break here on Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. This is Buccaneers Radio. Welcome back into Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. Casey Phillips here with Cam Brate. All right, I wanted to start by also asking, have you seen the captain of the crew that happens at Bucs games? Have you seen what this is?
No.
So we bring in different people to get to be on the pirate ship, to get to fire the crowd up.
Okay.
Mr. Ryan Jensen.
Whoa.
Was our captain of the crew yesterday.
Okay.
So we're gonna play this video of him getting everybody fired up, and I want to see your reaction to it.
Okay.
Crew, raise the flag. Tampa Bay. It's simple. Win and we're in. Fire the king.
Doing like a tomahawk chop with the sword too.
Yep. Oh, that's what you do. That's what you got to do. It's a one sword for every cannon thing. Tell me how this went in your mind. Tell me the thoughts, the analysis here of watching your guy Ryan Jensen up there.
I wonder how much he practiced that in the mirror at home. I think a significant amount of times. I always said that Ryan looked like an actual pirate.
Yes.
So like it's kind of fitting that like he's on his pirate ship. Like it's perfect for him. He's in his element. He did a great job. He's way more fired up than I would have been.
I was going to ask how you would have been if we asked you, because I'm thinking next year.
Couple waves.
Yeah, the little queen wave from
that's about it. I could throw some beads. But Ryan was all in.
It sounds like you're ready for Gasparilla, not captain of the crew.
Yeah. I'm a Gasparilla guy.
Yeah. So you don't think you would have done well at this?
Not at the, I don't want to be the star of the show.
So you were never the guy that tried to do any of the like fire up speeches, anything like that.
No. That's not me.
No.
Stay in your lane. You like, yeah.
Who was like great at it that you remember that you were like, I am fired up after this?
Always Levante. Like, I didn't really listen to what he said per se, but like, you could tell that he cared a lot. And so like that meant a lot to me. Like I didn't really listen to it. I wasn't a huge rah-rah guy. You know, I kind of tuned out and just kind of was like thinking about what I was going to do in the game. I think it really hit home like the most is when like a quieter person who didn't do it much would say something.
So then you could have been amazing is what I'm hearing, because although maybe you weren't quiet, you didn't do those speeches, but you weren't quiet.
I wasn't quiet, but like, I think if I did that, people would be like, is he kidding? Like, was he joking? Like, it just wouldn't hit. Yeah.
If it was an SNL skit of doing this, then you were ready to go.
Yeah,
it was
100%.
The joke one.
Yeah.
All right, so let's look at this season, kind of big picture overall, now that this is, again, our final show here before we head into the playoffs. Who would you give the MVP award to on this team?
I would give the MVP to Baker.
Shocking.
Yeah, I mean, it's so cliche to give it to the quarterback, but the way Baker has played this year, losing your top two receivers, two of the best receivers in the league for 4 games, and not skipping a beat has been incredible. Obviously, we've gotten Mike back since then, but it's been a whole host of new receivers in and out of the lineup for him all year, and his play never dropped off. He always seemed to make the play when the team needed it, whether with his arms or his legs, and guys just follow him. You can tell the impact he has on everyone on the team.
And I know you never want to be out any of your top players, but I was wondering your thoughts on the ways that having Mike and Chris out for a time might have even helped the team in the long run in terms of what it made Liam Cohen have to work to do as a new coordinator, what it made young guys have to step up and do. Like, are there ways that could set the team up for more success, playoffs, future?
100%. Like, you grow up really quick when you have to play, and whether you're ready for it or not, like, those experiences, good or bad, allow you to grow so much as a player and collectively as a team. And I think obviously individually, like obviously Bucky was incredible throughout the year, got better the entire year. Same thing with Jalen. But Liam, his ability to get the most out of what he had every single week, you can't say enough about everything that he did with what he had. So offensively, I think you can take away so many positives from this year.
When was that time for you that you felt like you had to grow up in the way that you played, or some of those times it felt like ready or not?
Let me think. All right, so yeah, my second year was kind of like a whirlwind because I was on the practice squad week 1, got cut, went to the Saints, tight end got hurt, got signed back to the Bucs the next week. I really wasn't playing a ton, and then all of a sudden, one week in meetings, Wednesday, I was sitting in meetings and I kept on seeing my number on these play designs, and I was like, me? Like, they're putting me there?
Little old me?
But yeah, like, once you get thrown out there, like, it's sink or swim. So you got to grow up quick.
And who would you say is your most improved player this year on the team?
Wow. Great question. So looking at it from the perspective of improved throughout the season, I would say,
or it could be from last year to this year.
I would say Jalen, his growth throughout this year has been huge. Most improved player from last season, no question, Cody Mock.
Yep.
Last year was tough for him, and just it looks like a totally different player this year. You can tell he put a lot of work in the offseason, improving his strength, his technique. But again, like, so much of it is confidence. Like, everyone kind of has the ability deep down. It's just coaches unlocking it, and then guys like really getting comfortable with utilizing their unique skill set to the best of their abilities. And you can tell throughout the year, like throughout this year, he's improved, but like just the jump from last year to this year has been huge.
Yeah, and we've seen that several times on the offensive line, especially of the guy that came from the smaller school and then had to adjust to the NFL, and then even had to adjust to moving positions. I mean, whether it was Ali Marpet, whether it was Cody Mauch, whether it was even Luke Gedeke to a degree. Like, I mean, that's asking a lot of transitions early in a career of college to NFL, and then also different positions. That just takes time.
Yeah, and the jump, like coming from a smaller school as well, it is a huge jump, like the level of competition. And then being asked to change positions with that as well, it's just so much for a rookie to do and do well. And all of those guys you mentioned, just like getting those reps that first year, kind of having those failures allowed them to become the players that they are now. Well, not Allie anymore because he's not a player anymore. Allie wouldn't be very good at football right now.
Well, he'd just be a very different position.
I think he'd be a fullback. He'd be like Co.
A fullback.
Allie could be Co.
Yeah, I like that idea.
But definitely not as good as a receiver as Co.
I mean, obviously, no, who is? We're talking to Cam Brate. How about just the O-line overall this year? What are the things that you noticed? Because we've talked a lot about Bucky for very good reasons.
Yeah.
But obviously, and Bucky is so good at giving them credit too, which I really love. But looking at Liam Cohen's scheme, the positions he's put the O-line in, and then the guys on that group, like everything outside of your running back, what have you seen about why this is the time to have this successful year?
Yeah, I think health has been a huge factor. Obviously, Tristan was banged up for a few games, and Schooley did a great job stepping in for him. But getting those reps together, being cohesive as one unit, I think is huge for offensive line play. And that's also a compliment to Graham at center, being the guy who's making all the calls, getting everyone on the same page. But yeah, just they're playing as one unit. They pretty much have the whole year. And having a running back like Bucky, who's going to fight for extra yards, you can kind of see offensive linemen straining a little bit harder, knowing that, like, hey, if I just hang on to this for a tick longer, like this could be the block that springs Bucky or Rashad. So I think coaches have done a really good job making sure everyone's on the same page. Graham's done a good job making sure everyone's on the same page. But just playing as one unit, I think has been huge.
So we did MVP and most improved.
Okay.
Who was the most fun for you to watch this year?
Most fun.
And you're not allowed to answer Co.
I was going to say Co.
I knew it.
Well, all right. Outside of tight end, like watching Cade has been super fun for me. Seriously, not just
out of your bias towards the position.
Yes.
Sure.
But all right, I'm going to say Cade. I'm going to talk about Cade for a sec. But like Bucky's obviously the most fun to watch.
Yeah,
like,
Bucky's just so electric.
Electric with the ball in his hands. But Cade was asked to do a bunch of different things this year. Like he pretty much acted as the primary receiver for a few games and was unbelievable. I think he's just improved so much in terms of his route running ability and his ability to win one-on-one matchups. Like he's always had such a good feel for the game. Son of a coach, like it's kind of like he was born to play football. He's always done a great job with the blocking, but he just took so many strides as a receiver, and his ability to also run after the catch. He was, for me, like I had a ton of fun watching Cade play.
I also felt like it was unbelievable watching him take just some hits.
Beast.
Pop right back up like nothing happened, where I'm like, I think he's dead. I think this is the end of Cade.
I think it was a Ravens game where he got hit like 6 times in the second half so hard. No, I would text Cade after some of the games like, hey, dude, are you okay?
He said that was the only reason he even knew how hard these hits looked, is he's like, I don't know. I just all of a sudden friends and family were like, are you okay? Are you alive? And I thought that was so wild. He didn't even seem to understand how crazy it looked.
Cade is a beast. He truly is a beast. Like, and he comes in the next day, like his hand is like so swollen. Like he can't really walk that well, but he's just still so happy, like kind of oblivious to the fact, like what he just like
went through a car
had like 10 car accidents, the day before. Yeah.
That's crazy. And I was so sad for him the way the injury happened, because I think he was like 5th in Pro Bowl voting among all tight ends.
Yeah, I voted for him like 10,000 times.
It's all you. It's just you. Apparently, never mind. I thought it was all the fans. It's just you propping him up. Sitting there. Now we know what you're doing in your retirement. You're just clicking votes. But I mean, when you do think about the fact that you have Travis Kelce, who's obviously getting a ton of votes, and like even the way Brock Bowers played this year, like he had started really getting some national recognition.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to hear even just your thoughts on like across the league when you look at tight ends, where maybe like we don't even appreciate how much Cade has been doing and the level he's played at that position across the league.
Yeah, definitely. And he had a couple primetime games where he came up big, which is always huge for getting your name out there. But yeah, like those people you mentioned, Travis, Brock Bowers, like all those guys who like people think of as tight ends, like are very one-dimensional, and that's not a knock on them at all. It's like they have those couple skills in the pass game that are like incredible, and they get a ton of notoriety for that. But like Cade is so unique. Like he gives everything he can in the run game, and he never comes out. And I think as long as he does stay healthy, like he's going to be recognized as one of those top tight ends for everything that he can do.
And then let's look at the defensive side of things. We talked about it a little bit, but defensive line in particular, I wanted to hear what stood out to you about this year of that whole group and just what they were able to contribute on a defense that was so banged up when it came to inside linebacker, secondary, how important that defensive line group ended up being to what this team was able to do.
Yeah, it was huge. Kalijah, getting him back healthy, he progressed a ton as a player. He's very disruptive. Like Vita pretty much put like a whole year together of being healthy and playing hard. And like, if you really just watch Vita throughout a game, like the amount of disruption he causes, like he is such an impactful player for a position that's not always impactful. So have those two in the middle. It all starts there. Like that's where you kind of generate pressures. That's where you stop the run. So having those two guys in the middle has been really big. I think we're probably like one elite pass rusher away from like really filling out the D line. I think guys have gotten better on the edge in terms of generating pressure, and Todd's done a really good job with a ton of different games for those guys as well. I also want to give a shout out to Logan Hall. I don't know what happened, but last year, like starting around week 12, he's just been a totally different player.
Wow.
And very consistent, plays hard, oftentimes is a guy taking on double teams and is a really selfless player, and I think he's had a really good season.
And you talked about Vita being able to stay healthy this year. The big storyline in the offseason was the fact that he lost weight, worked out with Ndamukong Suh, all with this as the idea. And then I think we kind of forgot about that to a degree because he just was playing at such an elite level. I mean, he's just crushing it with the sacks, career high for him. Have you seen that? You think that is really a big part of what's happened, of just a little bit of like losing weight?
Hard to tell.
I know because he's such a.
I think he gained it back. Like he's looking so big, which is not like he's a big boy. Like he utilizes his bigness to really help him out. Like, but I do think it seemed, based on everything like I was told and hearing from other people, that he really did motivate himself and was very consistent with his workouts in the offseason. And that's so big as a player. Like the season is so long, like you need to have a good foundation going into the season. So I think his ability to be playing so well so late in the season is a testament to all the work he did in the offseason.
And then now thinking about the secondary, and again, how much it was just a roulette back there of who knows who's playing this week.
Yeah.
Not a single game did they get to play with all their original planned starters in that group. How challenging is that? And how did you see both Coach Bowles handle that, and then the individual guys that ended up having to get thrown into just all sorts of weird, wild positions and to not be playing next to the guys they thought they would?
Yeah, it's really hard. It's defensive back is a position that can lose you games. Like they're the last line of defense. There's so many good receivers and quarterbacks in the league. Like it's really hard when you're rotating guys every single week because of injuries. But I think you look at the guys when they were healthy, a lot of them played really well. I think Tyke showed that he can be a guy that the team can really count on going forward. I love Izzian. He plays so hard. Then you got Dean is super solid. And I feel like he gets like a bad rap a little bit. Dean is a really good NFL cornerback, and I think you do feel like his presence is missed when he's not playing. Zion has taken so many steps forward the past few years and really became into a great player for the Bucs. Obviously, Antoine missing games really hurts. Whitehead missing games really hurts. So like it's hard to like really like look at the DBs as a whole and like be like they played good or bad. It's like they played good when they were healthy. It's just like we couldn't have them healthy all year, which is a bummer.
Which was a large bummer. All right, we have one more segment coming up. We're going to get into this upcoming playoff game, so you won't want to miss that. We'll have more coming up here on Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. This is Buccaneers Radio. Welcome back into Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. Casey Phillips here with Cam Brate. So looking forward to this playoff game. I was thinking about the Super Bowl year, that every playoff game was a rematch to the regular season. I think, isn't that correct?
No idea.
Great.
Sounds good,
Love
though.
it.
Yeah.
It sounded right.
Yeah.
If I say it with enough confidence.
Yep.
I was thinking, for you as a player, tell me, do you prefer a rematch as a playoff game, or do you prefer a brand new opponent? And what do you think the team and coaches feel about that?
I feel like it doesn't matter that much.
Yeah.
Like there's pros and cons to it. Like you can get caught looking at like your previous game against them because that's the best film. That's how they played you. But like you change so much during the course of the season, and you're going to do a lot of things differently than you did the first time you played the team. So especially with this game in particular, having played them week 1.
Yeah,
like,
literally the furthest away possible matchup.
That game, it's like 2 totally different teams at this point. So I would like to look at it because I'd like to when you're watching film, you really understand what you're doing. So like you can really like apply like, oh, this play is very similar to what we ran here. So like this is how they played it. Like you can get a really good idea of what they're going to do. But like I said, it's so far apart from the last game. It's like it doesn't really mean much at this point.
I remember when we started the season and we saw they were our first game and we won pretty handily.
Yeah.
And which is nice. But I don't think, I'm sure the team feels differently, but at least for fans' sake, it didn't feel as impressive maybe as we came to realize it was.
Totally, yeah.
That they ended up being a really great team, and we didn't know what to expect with this rookie QB, and they had drafted high for a reason, and what was this team going to look like. So what have you seen about just who the Commanders are that maybe week 1 didn't know to appreciate how big that win was, and who they are now, again, like you said, week 1 versus all the way now, a whole season with this rookie QB and the team we're facing now as compared to week 1?
Yeah, I remember coming in here after the game, and we were like, yeah, it was a great win, but like Commanders aren't going to be very good. Yep. So, but yeah, I was very wrong with that take. Yeah, like I was saying before, they're a totally different team. Like week 1, they really didn't know what they had yet with their quarterback, and he is super dynamic. Going to put a ton of pressure on our defensive ends in particular to make sure that they're keeping contained, because you let him out of the pocket, he's going to get 25 yards. Like he is extremely fast, great runner of the football, but I think throughout the year he showed that he can also be a really good pocket passer. Does a really good job getting the ball out on time, accurate with his throws. On defense, I do think the Bucs match up pretty well. Bucs offense versus Commanders defense. I do think the Bucs under Liam should have a really good game plan going against them. But I think our defense is going to have to really step up for this to be a good game.
Yeah, what would you say are going to be kind of the big keys of what the team is probably most emphasizing this week?
Always starts with protecting the football, but running the football, controlling the clock, trying to keep their offense off the field because they are pretty dynamic. Commanders aren't a great running football team. So I think for us, finding unique ways to kind of create some confusion with Jaden being a rookie quarterback on the road. And I think Todd's going to be in the lab this week working, scheming up some blitzes for him. So, yeah, just trying to keep them off balance as an offense, I think is going to be really big.
How do you think this team is built for the playoffs? That I feel like I hear that a lot of like, oh, this is a team that is built well for a playoff run. Like that idea. How well what are the things about the Bucs that make you say this could be a team that could advance?
Yeah. Running the football is obviously huge in the playoffs. Being able to control the clock, keeping the other team, like they can't score if they're not on the field. So like controlling the clock, running the football is really big. I think you look at the Bucs season this year, it seemed that they kind of played to the level of their competition every single game, which definitely can hurt you in the regular season because they didn't play great against some not so great teams. But the Bucs always seem to really put their best foot forward against those top teams. Maybe we didn't always win the game, but we played very competitively. So I think we've showed that we can compete with the best teams in the NFC. We beat the Lions, beat the Eagles, beat the Commanders, went to Kansas City, had a really, really good showing without Mike and Chris. So I think being a team that really does kind of rise to the level of competition makes the Bucs really scary in the playoffs.
We're talking to Cam Brate, and now we know it's also a Sunday night game, which, as we've discussed, is maybe not what the team would want. I don't know. Like, tell me, do you I hear guys say that they hate night games.
I hate night games.
See, exactly, because of how long you have to wait. But then it's also like, oh, we love prime time idea. Like,
but every playoff game is prime time, kind of, you know?
That's fair.
Yeah. No, it's fine though. Like home game Sunday night is going to be incredible.
Is that much better than like a road Sunday night game?
Oh yeah. Oh dude, road night games are horrible. Oh my gosh. You get back at like 5 a.m. It's all like, it's tough to play on the road, obviously in the playoffs as well. So to have that comfort of being able to play at Ray J is really big.
What do you feel like is for you? What were your game day routines and how were they different if it was a 1, a 4, an 8?
Man, yeah, I would say I'm, pretty regimented. I would say that about myself.
No, I love that no one will ever use the word superstitious. This is one of my favorite things. No one will use this word, but everyone's like, I'm regimented. I have my routines.
I'm a routine guy.
That sounds.
I
so
feel like
better to
superstitious like is a little bit like magical. Like you're like doing something weird. Like
whispering a little incantation over there.
Yeah, like putting on your I don't know, like
you weren't a right sock before left sock kind
of
person.
No, but I did the same thing all the time.
What was it?
Like how in detail do you want to get?
I don't know.
I was a huge eater.
Concerned.
Like I would say the most unique thing about my pregame routine is like I have to eat so much.
You ate a ton before the game?
Always, like an incredible
amount. That sounds
amount.
like a terrible idea.
I would get so hungry during the game. I don't know why. Like some people like literally don't eat before a 1 o'clock game. Like I had 3 meals before a 1 o'clock game. Like I had to.
Oh my gosh.
I was what they call a hard gainer. So like if I didn't eat a lot, like I would like shrivel up and I would be so skinny. So yeah, like I would eat when I woke up, like 7, eat at 10, eat at like probably 30 minutes before the game.
What were you eating 30 minutes before a game?
Sometimes I bring some chicken breasts in there, some fruit.
That is the most bro thing I've ever heard. Just got my pocket chicken breasts that I'm carrying into the stadium. No, it was
really disgusting. They were like so dry.
Ew.
But you got to do it for the gains.
You got to do it. I love it. Well, this has been our last show, so I wanted to hear. Tell me how you felt the first time co-host. Wow. You crushed it, by the way.
You made it really easy.
Oh, thanks, man.
Hopefully it wasn't too boring, especially this episode having to listen to me talk.
You the whole time.
Yeah,
the superstar of the show.
I would have turned it off. I mean, I'll be amazed if someone stayed the whole time. But
people
no,
love
it was
some Cam Brate. Don't you worry.
It was fun. It was fun. Gave me a reason to come back in the building, see some familiar faces. So it was great.
Did you have a favorite show or person you got to talk to or thing you learned about somebody?
We kind of knocked out all my favorites,
That was done purposefully.
Yeah. Yes. So it's hard to really give it to one guy. But if we had done Co, it probably would have been Co.
That's all anyone's going to remember from our show.
Yeah.
Is your love of Co.
Yeah, the one that got away.
Well, I also wanted to show you this. We got a little note in the mail, which super fun getting mail here to the office. And it said, this is from a guy named Jake. And he said, my daughter loves your Bucs All Access show and was wondering if you and Cam could sign the enclosed cards for her. And we have a little Cam Brate card for you.
Oh, I thought you were going to be in the picture too. Wouldn't that be something?
That would be amazing. But I get to sign a football because there's no rookie cards for reporters, unfortunately.
Not yet.
But not yet. We could make the first one.
Yeah.
So I get to sign this football. And then and I love this on the back. It's got your height and your weight, how accurate was this when you played 6'5", 245? Sure. I didn't feel like that. But I always love seeing the weight. And it's like, well.
You should have seen me listed high school basketball. 6'8", 250. Oh yeah.
You were basically Shaq.
Yeah.
So we're gonna sign these, and Jake, tell your daughter thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Jake and daughter.
We're very excited about that. But yeah, Cam, we really appreciate it. We hope you've had a lot of fun.
It was fun.
Real, you did a great job.
Thank you. So did you.
Oh, thanks, man.
Shout out Casey. Always makes it so easy for everyone.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you. Well, that's going to do it for us here on Bucs All Access, or Bucs Total Access here. I mean, man, can't wait to watch this playoff run. There's going to be so much to keep an eye on. So everyone stay tuned to Buccaneers.com and all the social media as well. We're going to have another Buccaneers Total Access with our coaches, though. Stay tuned for all the different coaches shows we're going to have. It's just this player one that comes to an end. So that's going to do it for us here, brought to you by Hooters, the original wing joint since 1983. This is Buccaneers Radio.